Good morning, everybody. Welcome. And thank you very much for joining us. I'm Jim Tuckwell, and it continues to be an honor and a privilege to serve as the board chairman for the Vilas County Economic Development Corporation. The VCEDC is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're rather a non-traditional economic development organization in that we have a volunteer working board of directors comprised of local, regional, and national business leaders who share a passion for the Northwoods and are dedicated to helping diversify and grow Vilas County's economy, leveraging Vilas County's unique strengths. Over the next hour, we're really delighted to provide perspectives on our vision for the future of Vilas County, an update on the rollout of broadband throughout the county, promotion of Vilas County as a year-round work-live broadband destination, and the support we've provided to our Vilas County business community. Before we go any further, however, I want to thank the Vilas County Board of Supervisors, the Lac du Flambeau Tribe, Nicolet Technical College, our business community, and the community at large, our donors, and last but absolutely not least, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for their support, without which we couldn't accomplish the results we'll share with you this morning. I'd also like to especially thank our board of directors, Executive Director Kathy Schmitz, Business Outreach Specialist Mary Sue Drum, and the professional volunteers for providing the leadership, services, and support that we offer at no charge to the Vilas County businesses. This morning, I'm really pleased to welcome David Reeves, who will provide a perspective on building a tech entrepreneurship and remote worker ecosystem. However, before I introduce David, I'd like to briefly introduce Noah Loddick, VCEDC board member, and the technical talent behind this webinar to introduce the Q&A process that will follow David's remarks.
Thank you, Jim. For folks that are online, we'll be doing a short Q&A following David's remarks. And if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a Q&A button. And so if you click on that button down at the bottom of your screen, you will be able to type in your questions. Those questions will come to us and we will work through and get to as many of them as we possibly can. We've only got a few minutes for question and answer, and so we may not be able to get to all of them, but we will try to get to as many of them as possible. And if there's additional questions we can't get to, feel free to send those to Kathy, and she will get them on to the appropriate people after, and we will work our best to get an answer back to you. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Noah. David Reeves is the current new CEO of Ready Rebound, and most recently, before that, was the president of Silicon Valley-based company OpenGov. While David was with OpenGov, he led the company from just being a $2 million a year in revenue organization to including more than 500 employees with $1 billion valuation. He has opened an office in Milwaukee and created 6 tech jobs in Wisconsin, while also serving as the executive resident at Marquette University's College of Business. David will discuss his inspirational story this morning of entrepreneurship in the tech industry, opportunities that exist for remote workers, his belief that, quote, it's not about where technology is today, it's where it's going, and the opportunities that this provides for Vilas County. David and his wife, Katie, are residents of Milwaukee as well as Eagle River. David, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, Jim, I want to thank you and Kathy and everybody on the board and all of you in attendance for having me today. Very excited to talk and honored that you thought of me to speak today. I do want to get to question and answer, so I'll try to go through a little bit fast as I can. But my personal story, as Jim mentioned, I grew up I'm a Wisconsin boy. I grew up here in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee area. Just loved Milwaukee, went to high school and college here as well. I am a graduate of UWM. My wife went to Marquette. I met her, actually lived with some friends at Marquette across the street. So close ties all the way since college, been with my wife since then. And after graduating, I ended up going into tech. I've had a 30-year tech career, and it led me to some really great opportunities and exciting places to live. I lived in Chicago for 5 years, a couple different towns in Boston. I lived in DC, and then, as Jim mentioned, most recently, I was in Silicon Valley for 16 years and have done 2 startups. One of my startups, Zora, Z-O-R-A, I was a chief revenue officer. That company has since gone public and is got a couple $1 billion valuation. And then my last company, as Jim mentioned, OpenGov, where I spent the last 6.5 years until very recently. And that company, like I said, it was a really great run. We built the fastest growing government technology software company in America. As many of you know, the government is always a little behind in the private sector when it comes to automation and cloud software technology. And I was very pleased to be part of a company that is now, I think, over 600 employees and with about $1.2 billion and growing. So it's an exciting company, still on the rise, and I'm still a big shareholder there. My story, though, is that I really loved Milwaukee. I have family here, 4 sisters, parents, and all that. But because of the opportunities in technology, I ended up moving around. And what I want to share a lot today is how things have really changed in the past 20 years and even the last 5. I did buy a second home in Milwaukee after living in Silicon Valley. And during the pandemic, it really became, like many of you, reprioritization of life and what's important to life. And really getting back to Wisconsin is something I always wanted to do. Unlike some folks that leave Wisconsin because of snow or cold, I was not one of those people. It was strictly so that I could have a tech career, which was blossoming and kind of where the opportunities were. But the world has really changed. And so one of the things that I originally did when I was in Silicon Valley is the company was completely in Silicon Valley, OpenGov as an example. And I started to hire employees throughout the country. For one, the cost is obviously less than Silicon Valley, but also wanted to get closer to customers. And at the time, that was like a new trend. A lot of the companies, all the employees, resided and lived and worked in Silicon Valley. And even the venture capitalists and people who had fund companies really wanted that concentration of talent, which would be Silicon Valley, Boston, Seattle, or maybe Boston or Austin, as the only places where people wanted to work. But how things have changed. During the pandemic, as I mentioned, I started commuting back and forth to Wisconsin. And this is where our heart is. My wife and I decided, why go back to Silicon Valley now that the offices are closed due to the pandemic? While the pandemic obviously was not a good thing, it provided a really great opportunity for us to move back by family and loved ones. And I opened an office in Milwaukee for OpenGov because the Silicon Valley office just stayed closed. California, as all of you know, shut down almost completely. And in Milwaukee, I was able to successfully hire 60 people in a short period of time. A lot of people were shocked that I was able to get the talent in Milwaukee. But what I found is that people in Milwaukee and Wisconsin were kind of starved for exciting startup companies and, wanted alternatives to just the big, bellwether companies like Northwestern and Harley and things like that. And so I actually didn't have any hard time really recruiting that much. Core engineering, software engineering, clearly we have a talent gap there. But for the rest of the roles in the company, it worked out actually quite well. So I moved a lot of the company to Chicago and Milwaukee, and it's been great. And so what I wanted you to know is that things have changed now. Venture capitalists, they encourage things like this. There's obviously some cost consideration, but really the pandemic has allowed people to live where they want to. And tech companies welcome that. They would now welcome people being able to live and work remotely. And I am certainly one of them. As Jim mentioned, I own a home in Eagle River on Cranberry Lake, and I'm very excited to be up there anytime I can and to live and work from there, and more to follow on that one. In Milwaukee, I started to try to instill a tech ecosystem and really got involved in things like the Tech Hub. I worked with Mayor Johnson's and Economic Development, Lafayette Crump, and the county executive to help build more of a tech ecosystem here. So a lot of ongoing activities on that. One of the things I'm working on is really kind of coining this whole area in Wisconsin near Lake Michigan. We're calling it the Fresh Coast and starting to brand our area. When people think of Silicon Valley or Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, they have imagery of a robust economic and thriving region. And that's what I'm really excited to help bring in the Milwaukee area and into Wisconsin in general. I think the game has changed. Not only do people want to live and work where they want, but I think companies want people to be happy. And to do that, they have to acknowledge it. Competition now is not about moving companies as much and brick and mortar. It's really about where the remote employees or concentration of remote employees can live and work. And really right now, the new areas that people are competing on is quality of life, cost, quality of life. And clearly for all of us here in the county, the natural beauty is a huge part of that is very unique and wonderful. And we're blessed to have such a great area. Silicon Valley people, started to leave, to Salt Lake, Jackson Hole, Boise, other places in Montana and other things years ago. And now I think we're finding that it's really about can counties and regions attract, professionals and high paying jobs to the region. My personal view on that, which I want to talk a little bit about, is it's not just about moving big companies. What I'm focused on here in Milwaukee and trying to help is get everybody to understand that a lot of the job growth in the country is really around startups and economic activities of small companies. If you think about Milwaukee, if Northwestern Mutual and Harley and these big companies like Johnson Controls could even just maintain the amount of employees, that's great. It's hard to, with economic ups and downs, it's hard to even just maintain the level of employment. But what I've learned is it's really the smaller companies that have robust growth. And I think Silicon Valley is a great example. And I got to see it firsthand how many companies that didn't exist or were small when I first moved to California, and now they're multi-billion-dollar companies. And that job growth is really exciting. So I really think some of the things that Jim and Kathy and all of you are working on for economic development is really smart. And I think it'll pay a lot of dividends. And I think we can get some good high-paying jobs in the region and in the county. So that's some of the things I wanted to talk about. I think the incentive structures to do that and to attract and keep talent are going to be interesting. I've had some great conversations with Jim and Kathy about things that I've learned about other municipalities and counties are doing. Tulsa, as an example, has a remote Tulsa program that seems very successful. And other cities like Indianapolis, Topeka, and others are successfully attracting people to live and work in their area remotely. And I think the ability to attract remote employees and let them enjoy the quality of life is going to be really critical going forward in terms of economic prosperity in the region. And so I'm excited about supporting all the economic development efforts that all of you have in the county. I personally, now that I have some internet that is working, it obviously is a difference maker. I know that's going to be one of the topics later today, but really when I think about people living where they want to live, the one prerequisite is clearly the ability to have good internet. So I'm glad that broadband is such a priority. I know it was a big reason why the first 6 or 7 months I lived in my home, I couldn't really stay in the area that much because I had important meetings, and the Zoom and the video conferencing just wasn't working satisfactorily. So I think that, and I think the ability to have all the services, right? I know that one of the things that you guys all probably talk about too is how to get more tradespeople in the area and just make sure that all the conveniences that the big cities have in terms of restaurants and access to trades and work like that is supported. I think there's a lot going on. I think the competition of how to attract and draw workers is changing. I think that startups and getting vibrant companies that not only are technology, but just bright ideas are the future for job growth. And I think that the county is well positioned to not only attract some of those to maybe headquartered there, but even from a remote worker to get their disproportionate amount of those people. I'm personally so passionate about this that after the last year of really 3 years, but this past year, I took some time off and have been doing a little more philanthropic things, working to support the community here. I decided what better way to help job growth and have that startup innovation mindset here in Wisconsin than to be the CEO of a startup right here in Milwaukee. So recently I've agreed to become the CEO of a company called Ready Rebound, which is a very exciting company that is kind of a concierge healthcare that does healthcare navigation and advocacy for our first responders. Predominantly, we're helping improve the healthcare for fire and police and public works. And we're going to be expanding that service for preventive care as well as really helping people get a better healthcare experience. So very excited to kind of wind down my remarks and open it up for questions. But I wanted everybody to know that I'm very excited to not only grow my company, Ready Rebound, here in Milwaukee, where it was founded, and hire a lot of jobs here. But I'm also looking to bring a lot of my executive team up to my home in the county and really give everybody a chance to see the wonderful quality of life that we have in the area. It sounds like there might be some questions. I'd rather pause my remarks. I can always add more color later, but I'd love to take any questions.
Thanks, David. I think as folks, if you have questions, please feel free to hit that Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Type your questions in there, and we'll give it a few seconds here for some questions to come in. And David, take those.
Jim and Kathy, I know you had questions from our conversations too. I'm happy to answer any of those questions that you guys had for me as well, if there's not any from the audience.
Yeah, David, I think I'd be very interested in your thoughts about remote workers from a technology perspective, and particularly in a tech company, the opportunities that might provide for building your workforce outside of the geographic area you're in.
Yeah, I think one thing about technology companies that make it so ideal to remote work is we've been doing it by and large for a long time. I'm a 30-year veteran of technology companies, and a lot of remote work. I mean, and even some of the video conferencing, Jim, early renditions of it, like things like WebEx and things like that, have been around for a while. And so I think the tech workers were some of the first to really implement those technologies. And I think what's happened now too is while live meetings and in-person meetings are still going to be important going forward to the future, I do think that there's an acceptance of customers and clients of companies too, that they're perfectly more comfortable doing business. I think the pandemic has accelerated that. So it used to be just in the tech industry and that, remote conference calls and video conferencing technologies were in use. I think it's now going to be prevalent. And so now I think what companies are going to want to do is put concentration of employees in areas. So when we do have live in-person meetings, I want my employees in Milwaukee, for instance, or in the Wisconsin region, because if I do want to have a quarterly meeting or a monthly meeting, can still get together with the teams. I see concentric circles around the areas that you want to build a critical mass that'll reduce travel and allow you to get together in person as needed. And then, of course, the hybrid approach where people have offices but still expect employees to come in only a few days a week. So I think that's kind of going to be prevailing. But I wouldn't be surprised if you can get companies to stay in a geographic region so that you can get everybody together. I do think it's going to be hard to do completely remote if you never get a chance to see employees as well.
Well, and that's one of the advantages we have is we're not that far from Milwaukee. So anybody working remotely, for instance, for Ready Rebound, could easily come to Milwaukee for a quarterly meeting.
Well, I'll be having my quarterly meetings up there in Eagle River area, which is exciting. And I'm going to be introducing a lot of new people to the region as part of my efforts to support what you are all doing. I also learned, I think maybe from the two of you, that when I am on business travel, I can fly through Minneapolis, which originally had not occurred to me, and go to Rhinelander. And that's something that I'm going to be advocating for people to do as well. I don't think that's something everybody knows. And then if we can get more robust activity, Jim, I'd love to, work with the politicians and the airlines to maybe have, American or others to fly into Rhinelander from Milwaukee. I think, believe it or not, that's a big piece to this, Jim, because when I was moving Milwaukee office here from OpenGov, one of my main challenges were not direct flights to Silicon Valley. And as soon as you get a direct flight to somewhere or close, in our case of Milwaukee, Chicago, and Minneapolis, getting to Rhinelander is plenty close enough. That really solves a lot of that problem. And I think you'll see a boon to economic activity once there's more accessible flights.
David, I think we got a bunch of questions that have filtered in the Q&A. So if you want to
Great.
tackle a few of those, that would be fantastic.
Tradesperson required in your area and ideas to secure them. Well, I think my experience since I moved up to the Eagle River area is that a lot of trades, electricians and so forth, they're booking a couple months out. And so I just think there's a good opportunity to take people from Milwaukee or other bigger areas and introduce them to the region, and they can build companies and practices. I know I really enjoyed getting to meet a lot of the tradespeople up in the North Woods, but I think a lot of them just said that they just had too much business and they were too busy and couldn't really handle the volume. So anything like electricians and stuff that you need a quick turnaround, that's challenging. So I think if we can recruit more tradespeople to the region, I think that's going to be, really helpful to the quality of life. It says, what are the experience of finding employees attracted to the area in regards to finding housing? So Dick asked this question. I don't know all the challenges. I did speak to Jim and Kathy about this, and I know that is an area of concern. I know that a lot of times young people, for instance, used to probably come up and work for the summers and things like that, and having affordable housing for young folks, maybe young professionals that has affordable housing in the area, I know is something that they're working on. I think that's really exciting that you're thinking that way, because I do think, I do miss the days, and many of you who are probably my age or older remember that, college students used to not always do internships. They would love to go to a place like Eagle River, and they would have some of the really times of their life, spending summers and getting part of a community. I know my wife in particular did that with Door County and some other things during her college years. So I would love to see us, get more, interns and people up in the area for the summer months or the busy months for sure. Carolyn asked, what would identify as biggest challenges of managing a tech business that uses remote workers? How do you stay connected? I think it's a great question. I personally really enjoy building my companies in the office and having people that you get to meet with every day, go to lunch with, have coffee with, answer questions and build culture. I think the key is quarterly meetings. First of all, you have to shape the culture that you want in your company, but to be able to have quarterly meetings and to budget for it so people can get together and build relationships, I think is really important. I think it's very doable, and the productivity in the remote work is actually quite good. I think the key is going to be the companies that figured out how to blend it and to still hold annual meetings with all its employees or things like that, and the budget for that are gonna do and fare much better than the ones who try to do everything 100% remote. A couple other questions. One was high impact practice you've seen from K-12 and higher education partners. So one of the things that I can tell everyone is there's a 1.5 million shortage of software developers. So I think one of the things that higher education and all education should do, and I think it should start in K through 12 and high school and through colleges. I've been working with Marquette University, MSOE, and UWM to really work on improving the curriculum. I think part of the ways that we have more tech workers here is we have to be producing the graduates to begin with. If you don't produce graduates, it's hard to get, tech workers to move to Wisconsin if they didn't, get their degrees from here. So I think, whether it be local community colleges, high schools, and all that, I strongly encourage us to think about a tech curriculum. Once we get them there and they fall in love with our quality of life, then they can stay. But otherwise, you're just going to end up taking, anybody that, if you don't graduate enough, a lot of them are going to end up on the coast, and we're not going to get our fair share there.
David, thank you very much. I think these have been really good questions. And, I'm really, really pleased to hear your perspective based on your experience, and couldn't agree more. Obviously, as we've discussed, you, Kathy, and I, our strategy here in Vilas County really is leveraging the fact that the world has changed, as you pointed out. It offers us a phenomenal opportunity to diversify and grow our economy. So couldn't thank you enough. And we're definitely going to work to stay connected to see how we can, advance your ideas further here in Vilas County.
Great. And I look forward to partnering, Jim, with you and Kathy and the rest of the board. I think to get younger professionals up there is maybe not as far stretch as maybe some people think. I think there's lots of opportunity, and I'm very willing to support and help share my experiences. So thank you all for having me on today. I very much appreciate it. I noticed, Jeff, you mentioned your office is at the Rhinelander Airport. I'd love to talk to you about that offline. Maybe Jim can connect us, or you can reach out to me at my Ready Rebound. Yeah, please take a look at my new company, Ready Rebound. My email is dreeves@readyrebound if anybody wants to send me an email, but I'd love to learn more about expansion of flights in Rhinelander too. I think that's a key ingredient. And if we do that, I think you'll be surprised at the results.
Thank you, and happy to get you connected.
Yeah, thanks again. And I'll probably be on mute the rest of the meeting, but if I don't talk to anybody else too, thanks again and have a wonderful holiday. Look forward to meeting many of you. Cheers.
David, thanks again. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, we at the VCEDC are unique in that we not only have an outstanding executive director in Kathy Schmitz and an outstanding business research specialist in Mary Sue Drum, who you'll hear from shortly, both of whom, but we are also fortunate to have our volunteer working board of directors. They're comprised of local, regional, and national business leaders and represent all corners of Vilas County. We all share a passion for the Northwoods and share a vision, as David has pointed out, for a dynamic, growing economy that leverages our unique strengths, advantages, and quality of life. Our board members offer a diverse set of skills and experiences and offer their time, talent, and financial support to the VCEDC so that we can help area businesses be successful. The skill and experience our board makes available to Vilas County businesses is often a game changer for many of our business startups. Also, because the key to success in any organization is the attraction of new skills, experience, and talent, succession planning is a priority for the VCEDC. And we are very fortunate in that we continue to be able to attract talented new board members as current board members retire. This has ensured that the VCEDC gains new perspectives, new ideas, and remains a dynamic, future-focused team. But now, I'd like to introduce Kathy Schmitz, our executive director, who will provide a more in-depth analysis of our accomplishments this past year. Welcome to the agenda, Kathy.
Great. Thank you, Jim, and good morning, everyone. Well, this past year, the VCEDC refined our mission statement to reflect the work that we do on a daily basis serving Vilas County. It reads, the VCEDC has a mission to build a strong, resilient Northwoods economy with an entrepreneurial mindset. And it's my pleasure to provide you with our perspective, our real life stories from local business owners and achievements from this past year as to how we're advancing our mission. And joining me in this segment, as Jim mentioned, will be my colleague, Mary Sue Drum, who joined us in February as our business outreach specialist, providing a local trusted contact with expert knowledge about beneficial resources for business owners. But before we segue to Mary Sue, a perspective. As David alluded to, the pandemic has brought what we care about, where and how we want to live, where and how we want to work into focus, both pre and post-pandemic. According to the 2020 census, Vilas County's population increased by more than 7%, and we continue to see steady growth. So the question is why? This past year, Vilas County saw a record number of new businesses and a new generation of entrepreneurs and remote workers, mainly in their 30s and 40s, who could now live anywhere, wanting experiences outside of work, and who are moving back to where they had great memories growing up, vacationed, have family, and or where they want to raise their own family. So people today want to live and work in a place where they can have their best life now, and they're choosing Vilas County. In the end, a new category of worker has been formed, the non-employee entrepreneur. So during uncertainty is when you see innovation. How very true. And it's happening right here in Vilas County. This past year, with special thanks to a grant from a private foundation, we strengthened our national and regional marketing, social media, and advertising by not only promoting Vilas County's strengths, but by showcasing in video an increased number of businesses and their success stories, how we're staying connected with broadband from around the county, and for those coming from the big cities, having the best of both worlds, living life in our beautiful Northwoods, while being just hours from Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago, to name a few. So we're seeing record numbers now of people coming to our website, social media platforms, and we're seeing a wonderful increase in business referrals. There's a famous quote, whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision. So let's hear some of those courageous and inspiring entrepreneurs that we've supported in Vilas County this past year.
There's a lot of things to love about living here and working here.
It's happy, it's a joyful place.
Feels like everyone's rooting for you.
Born and raised here, I've spent my whole life in Eagle River. I love the area, it's great. I mean, hunting and fishing opportunities, the community's great. It's a great place to live. There's a reason why people come to vacation here.
I always referred to here as home. I grew up in Conover, went to Northland Pines, went to college at UW-Stout. I was an art director in the entertainment department at SeaWorld, and I was there for 24 years. But when COVID hit and the parks kind of shut down, I was furloughed and decided that, you know what, it might be time to come home.
We have 3 children, 3 boys, and we lived in a very small condo. And so we actually visited my parents in the Northwoods, and we were like, maybe we should just move here, ha 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 ha. And about 6 weeks later, we arrived and we just gave up everything out there and moved here.
The big draw was that feeling of community, and I think I really realized that, you know, we're a small town up here in Land O'Lakes, but what we lack in population, we're really mighty with supporting local businesses and supporting local community members. I can't tell you how many times someone from this community has gone out of their way to help us grow or help us in any way that they can.
Well, we were in the Three Lakes Diner, and I was the manager of that, and then that burned down. And we were looking for a bakery in the Three Lakes area but there was nothing available over there. And then I heard about this one coming up for sale. My daughter wanted to go into the baking business. She's a baker. So I said, well, if we do this, you got to do the baking. So here we are.
We feel super blessed that this has worked out with Amelia and myself, my daughter, because this is where we live. This is our property. We share the dogs, we share the property, and we share the business. It's just been amazing for 2 years now.
We were just kind of like, what if Sportsman's ever came for sale? Because biggest
Seemed like
deal
a total pipe dream.
ever for
Complete
Adam.
pipe dream. We're located just north, about 6 or 7 minutes north of Manitoush Waters. It's a place that I've been coming to since the late 80s.
Started offering it in the Eagle River area just as almost a side hustle, and just kind of blew up on me. I didn't anticipate it to get this big this quick, but it's been wonderful. I don't take on jobs every day because each event is important and it requires my full attention.
So the beautiful part about being a remote worker and entrepreneur is I do have local clients, and I have clients in California, in Toronto, in Canada, in Florida. So again, the internet makes the whole world available.
It's a really intense year, but we just feel super blessed. It's just been an awesome place. And a cool thing to really have our kids watch the whole process of how do you chase after something that seems super crazy, find a motel in northern Wisconsin when you live 4 hours south of there. And how are we gonna do something like that? And how are we gonna run the day-to-day? Really, it's worked out really quite well.
One of the big question marks for me from moving my practice from a really busy suburban community to a really small community here was, is there gonna be enough population to support my business? And yeah, our business over the last 2 years has exponentially grown a lot bigger than I would have imagined. I mean, we still have room for growth as a new business, but where we're at today versus where I thought we would be, we're definitely above that.
I've gotten pictures of when we're closed, dogs sitting outside in front of the door, like wanting to come in. Eagle River Pet Company is a pet boutique and spa. Right now we're just dog and cat products, but we've had a lot of, feedback from people that have other types of pets too. So if we could expand and, expand into different types of animals and be able to offer more for people, we'd love to do that.
They said after Labor Day it'll slow down, but it hasn't. And then after Cranberry Fest it'll slow down, but it hasn't. And I'm thankful, I'm so thankful, because I do have people on the payroll. There's a lot of people that depend on me for the support of their families. So thank you, have a sweet day.
So thank you. I hope you enjoyed that video as much as we enjoyed putting it together. And so as you can see, we're supporting economic growth, business ideas and innovation, employment, and as David said, developing an ecosystem of businesses and remote workers supporting each other and our communities. So with special thanks to a grant from Associated Bank, we've also developed several lunch and learns events this past year with very strong registrations, focusing on small business, including starting and growing your business, nationally acclaimed author Scott Dawson sharing thriving in the evolving workplace, and growing your business with online sales, now the largest component of business sales, gaining access to global markets, as Amanda just alluded to. And we're developing more events in 2023 as well. So I continue to be so honored every day to work alongside such a stellar board of directors, our colleagues in the community, and Mary Sue, who will now highlight some of the major achievements this year in our business outreach. So Mary Sue?
Okay, thanks Kathy and Jim so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our work with businesses in Vilas County. My position as Business Outreach Specialist, SBA Community Navigator, is a result of the Vilas County Economic Development Corporation's partnership with Nicolet College. Nicolet was awarded a $1 million grant from the Small Business Administration in 2021 to partner with local economic development groups to fund an outreach program specifically focusing on underserved small businesses in rural northern Wisconsin. The 7 partners through this grant include economic development entities in Vilas, Oneida, Florence, and Lang Lake counties, the Lac du Flambeau Tribe, Great Lakes Intertribal Council, and the Grow North Regional Economic Development Corporation. Our goal is to be the feet on the street for the SBA, making the very important personal connections to businesses in our area. And that's a really important component, is that personal connection. We help business owners or people wanting to start a business connect with resources available to them. I found that many of these owners are not aware of the local, state, and federal programs that are designed to support their efforts. My job is to connect with these businesses, spreading the word about topics like funding through loans or grants, education opportunities and classes focusing on starting and building businesses, and other services provided through the VCEDC, our board, Kathy, and partners in the community. Why is this work important? Because it provides a trusted local source with one-on-one contact, focus on the needs of the businesses and local entrepreneurs. On a personal note, it's very rewarding to be the representative for the VCEDC with our local business community and new entrepreneurs. I've been all over the county in the beautiful towns that make up our Northwoods home, and I'm very happy to report that we have been serving businesses with the following activities. Wisconsin Economic Development Main Street Grant Awards. Of the 43 businesses in Vilas County awarded with this $10,000 grant, the VCEDC assisted with 21 of them as of December 1. We currently have 3 new applications on file with an additional 2 more in process. If the businesses in process receive the funding, it could be $260,000 in federal grant money that we assisted in bringing to our communities. That's a great record of success, showing our hustle in assisting businesses and how much we care about them. Since we started recording our results in May, we've logged 74.5 consulting hours with local businesses. The topics include Main Street grant help, marketing consultations, accounting and tax consultations, entity formation, and other startup assistance. I've done research and reported back to our clients on diverse topics such as DNR well grants, food service equipment grants, agriculture organic farming grants, digital marketing activities, public relations efforts, sources of startup business funding, and other topics. The list keeps going on, and it's really exciting to do this. Plus, we have had about 5 business principals participate or express interest in classes offered through Nicolet College, the Small Business Development Center at UW-Stevens Point, and the UW-Madison Entrepreneurship Center, among some of the great partners we have in training services. Additionally, the VCEDC has directly assisted 54 businesses with 41 full-time and 29 part-time employees in 2022. The one thing that always strikes me about our business community in Vilas County is the story behind the businesses. Each and every business has their own unique story to tell, and being able to help tell that story is what will connect us all to the customers and the great people willing to take a risk and make businesses work in Vilas County. Tying in with our mission of serving diverse businesses to develop a strong, diversified economy, we've worked with women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, tribal-owned businesses, and veteran-owned businesses. From pet stores to breweries to copywriting services, resorts, campgrounds, restaurants, and retail stores, here are a few of these fantastic businesses telling their story, sharing in their own words, as Kathy mentioned, how we are indeed developing a strong, resilient economy, one business at a time.
The VCEDC was a tremendous resource right when I first got started. So when I first called Kathy, she immediately connected me with an expert, with someone who had more than 30 years experience in business. And I mean, it's priceless.
I'm really good at what I do, but getting your name out there is really tough, and the Vilas County Economic Development really helped me with that. They got me in contact with a marketing consultant. They got me in contact with a website consultant.
We are so grateful to the VCEDC. We got the most incredible connections, and ever since then, it's just been moving forward like a freight train. So.
The VCEDC just pointed us in the right direction, what to do, how to start. Kathy and Mary Sue told us about the Main Street Bounce Back Grant, and we went for it, applied for it, got it, and that has really helped our business.
The Vilas County EDC has been, a beacon of knowledge. I'd say forwarded me to a chiropractor that recently retired here to talk to. I talked to him one-on-one, even referred me to some people that may help with our build-out process and maybe some economic help with grants.
More recently, I called again because I got a random tax letter and I had no idea how to navigate this. I was just in tears. I didn't know what to do. With that, one phone call saved me like $1,275. So.
Mary Sue and Kathy have been there 100% of the time, making sure I fill out the paperwork, helping me fill out the paperwork, because there's a lot of paperwork involved and a lot of stuff. And I'm very thankful to these ladies. If you need anything from them, they will help you.
Last summer, I contacted the Vilas County EDC and talked with Kathy, instructed to apply for the Main Street Bounce Back Grant, which we received, which was wonderful because we put in all new furnaces, all new plumbing, all new, stuff that is just like costly.
Any new business that's interested in wanting to come to Vilas County, to be a #1 thing is check out their website, give Kathy a call and see what they can do for you.
Well, that was great. Again, thanks everybody for letting us talk about the businesses in Vilas County. Very, very excited about it. And now I'm going to flip it over to Jim, who's also going to talk about another great initiative from the Vilas County Economic Development Corporation, and that's our work with broadband.
Thanks a lot, Mary Sue. As David pointed out, having a robust broadband infrastructure is absolutely critical to the future. And so we recognized this and made the decision to lead the broadband rollout throughout Vilas County back in the first quarter of 2020. I'll highlight what this has entailed in just a minute. But first, I want to thank Bill Niemuth, our broadband work group team leader, for his skill, his commitment, leadership, and countless hours dedicated to leading our team to help improve broadband access throughout Vilas County. We couldn't accomplish what we are doing and where we're at without Bill. Now, Bill has client commitments this morning, so unfortunately isn't able to be with us here, but is working closely with us on a day-to-day basis. We reached out to the towns and encouraged the development of broadband work groups early on, and our broadband buddies, so to speak, who we could work with. We provided education, skills transfer, consulting and mentoring, ongoing Q&A support, and connection with our internet service providers. There's half a dozen different internet service providers working in and around Vilas County, and so we needed to work town by town and with each different internet service provider to really get the rollout underway. By providing a focal point for the ISPs across all of our townships, we made working with Vilas County easier, as they didn't have to work on a town-by-town basis. This paid off by having ISPs prioritize Vilas County higher than many other counties. It's a great credit to the towns that they worked in partnership with us and developed their broadband work groups for us to partner with. Likewise, the Lac du Flambeau tribe developed an excellent broadband work group team and accepted one of our team members as a member representing the VCEDC. We were able to help with educational content, introductions to ISPs, and ongoing support over more than a 2-year timeframe. As Bill Niemuth shared with us back in the beginning, broadband is hard work. And during the years 2020 and 2021, we worked very hard to develop the foundation with which to move forward across the county. As we moved into this past year, we began to see the fruits of all of our respective hard work pay off. In June, PSC grants were awarded to SonicNet for a fiber to the home project in the town of Washington. Charter Spectrum was awarded a grant for fiber to the home, every home, in Presque Isle. And Charter Spectrum also won a grant for fiber to the home in Arborvita, Conover, Cloverland, and Lincoln. And the Lac du Flambeau tribe was awarded a grant by the NTIA, the National Telecommunications Industry Administration, to develop a new business within the tribe and create an ISP, which will provide fiber to the home across the reservation. We have developed a wonderful working relationship with our townships and the Lac du Flambeau tribe, as well as the internet service providers that service Vilas County. All of our commitments of time and talent and our solid working relationship have made a difference in what can be accomplished, the number of grant dollars that can be secured, and the pace of rollout of fiber to the home projects. This team effort has made the difference. Currently, we have just over $65 million in broadband fiber to the home projects underway in Vilas County. $40 million of this is in the form of grant dollars that have been approved this past year. Currently, there are projects underway in Boulder Junction as they roll out phase 2, having completed phase 1 of their projects to bring fiber to the home to all homes in Boulder Junction. As mentioned, the Lac du Flambeau tribe's ISP initiative, which will roll out fiber across the reservation. The Four-Town project of Charter Spectrum at Arbor Vitae, Conover, Cloverland, and Lincoln. In Washington, I mentioned the SonicNet project. And of course, in Presque Isle, working with Charter Spectrum to bring fiber to all the homes in Presque Isle, which is about another 1,000 living units. And finally, in St. Germain, there's 2 different projects, one being driven by ChoiceTel and one by Charter Spectrum. As you can see, the momentum is building and fiber to the home broadband is quickly rolling out across the county. We're working on the next phase for 2023 grant requests. Process is currently underway. We're laying the foundation to apply for a Wisconsin PSC grants, which were just announced 2 days ago on December 7th. These will be due in February. Even before the pandemic accelerated population growth, the VCEDC had a vision for Vilas County as a work-live broadband destination. And people around the state are taking notice that things are happening here in Vilas County. Our fast-growing broadband infrastructure provides the foundation for future economic growth in the North Woods. Robust county-wide broadband availability throughout the county is key to our future economic development. It's the infrastructure needed to do business globally from Vilas County. It offers the opportunity for the tech jobs that David pointed out and tech workers who just need to hit enter in order to ship their software products to customers anywhere in the world. It offers the opportunity for remote workers to live and work here in the environment that they love and bring their very oftentimes 6-figure incomes with them. It offers improved education opportunities for our students and improved telehealth for our citizenry. Looking ahead, the VCEDC will continue to lead this vital work effort. And though given the rural nature of our county, it's probably not realistic to think that we'll ultimately have fiber to every home in Vilas County. Our goal is to have fiber to the homes of up to 90% of Vilas County living units by the end of 2026. So stay tuned and we'll continue to communicate our progress as we move forward. Next on our agenda is our Business of the Year, and choosing a Business of the Year from this year's Business of the Month award winners was really not an easy task. There were a large number of very worthy candidates. We're fortunate to have a host of successful civic-minded business leaders here in the North Woods. Now, let's pause to recognize once again our Business of the Month recipients and then announce the 2022 Business of the Year. Gretchen Garish, the director of Trout Lake Station, has joined us this morning to accept our award and share her thoughts on Trout Lake Station's role locally, nationally, and globally. Congratulations, Gretchen, and thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Hi, Jim. I wanted to start by expressing how honored we are here at UW-Madison's Trout Lake Station to be recognized as the 2022 Business of the Year by the Vilas County Economic Development Corporation. Among the peer businesses and the community employers that you saw in the video there, we're very humbled to be recognized in this way. We feel fortunate that at the core of our mission is water. Water is central to so much that all of us love, share, and invest in throughout northern Wisconsin. And as lake research facility and educational facility, we feel these important connections to water in every project, event, and partnership that we have. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge and recognize the staff at Trout Lake Station who has under their umbrella at work and in their personal commitments expand that stewardship of water throughout the region. This includes Susan Knight, who for many years has led Science on Tap, and WXPR Field Notes, Noah Loddick, who is here on the board and also the chair of the Lake Owners Group at the Lake Tomahawk Group, who expands technology and data gathering into many of our regional lakes and communicates those data regionally, nationally, and at a global scale to tackle questions of climate change and lake health. Amber Murnack, who is new to the station, but has already brought her education background into the K-12 classrooms throughout Vilas and Oneida counties to expand the reach and education of our next generation. We're expanding, we're working on hiring a new facilities technician to increase our capacity, and we'll be within the next couple of years, working to bring on a Wisconsin idea researcher to lead to more applied science and passionate exploration of waters with community-led questions. With that capacity increasing, and we remain committed to being good community partners and leaders in building knowledge, sharing information, and training the next generation to build opportunities in ways that sustain our valued waters and natural systems of the region. So I want to say thank you again to the Vilas County Economic Development Corporation and to Jim and Kathy, the board, for this really wonderful recognition. Thanks so much.
Gretchen, thank you. Congratulations again, and thank you for joining us. And thank you for being such a great partner. Before we close our meeting, I'd like to welcome Kelly Cooper, president and owner of Lake Time Management, as our newest board member. Kelly was unanimously voted in to join our board earlier this morning during our December board meeting. Welcome, Kelly. As productive and dynamic as this year has been, 2023 offers the opportunity to accomplish even more, and we look forward to the opportunities that the new year offers. We're going to continue our outreach and PR efforts to ensure that we continue to put Vilas County on the map as a broadband work and live destination. Of course, this is dependent on very fast growing broadband infrastructure. And so we're going to continue our work with ISPs, our communities, and the Lac du Flambeau tribe to help further build momentum on our county-wide broadband rollout. And we'll be continuing to promote Vilas County as a broadband destination. And as you've heard from Kathy and Mary Sue, we're going to be very much committed to continuing our one-on-one support for Vilas County businesses. I'd like to thank and welcome back our leadership team with Richard Nelson as vice chairman, John Chamberlain, our treasurer, and Elizabeth Demel, our secretary. Again, we were voted in as the leadership team in this morning's meeting for 2023. Thank you again for your support. It's well recognized across the country that developing successful economic development initiatives requires partnerships. And we greatly appreciate and depend on the partnerships that we've highlighted this morning, which are so key to our success. Stay tuned as we work together to make 2023 even better. In keeping with the fast-paced nature of this agenda, unfortunately, we don't have time for Q&A. However, if you have any questions or would like to further the conversation, I really encourage you to contact Kathy or me, as we welcome the opportunity to receive your feedback and have follow-up conversations about our strategy, initiatives, accomplishments, and the future that we see for Vilas County. Finally, I'd like to thank board member Noah Loddick, who has worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that this webcast is a success. And I'd like to especially thank Kathy for developing and leading the creation of this year's annual meeting. Thank you so much, Kathy. Please accept our best wishes for a safe and happy holiday season. And here's looking forward to a successful new year. Thank you all very much for joining us. Our 2022 annual meeting is adjourned.